For a lot of first and second generation college students, the pressure is real. Graduate on time, land a good job, and somehow avoid student loan debt. But what if the most life changing career moves you could make isn't even on your radar? Today on the New College Perspective, we are shining a light on the Peace Corps, a path that blends global service, purpose, and career growth. This episode is very close to my heart because Peace Corps was an experience that made a tremendous difference in my own career journey. And I'm joined today by Alixandria Warren, a recruiter for Peace Corps and a returned Peace Corps volunteer herself. And she is here to break down how Peace Corps works, what it offers students just like you, and how it might just be the bold next step you didn't know was possible. If you've ever wondered, could I do something like that? This is the episode for you. New to my channel, hi, I'm Jerica, and I love helping first and second gen students succeed in college. So click subscribe, and I will see you on the other side. Alex, welcome to the New College Perspective. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to share with you more about the Peace Corps, what we have to offer, and all the ways that people can get involved today.
Alex, so for students who may not know much about it, can you explain what is the Peace Corps and what kind of work do volunteers do?
Yeah, of course. So the Peace Corps is a U.S. agency that was founded in 1961 by then President JFK. He asked, would you be willing to go to places of hardship and to serve? And at that time, people across the United States said yes. And so the Peace Corps was started. The Peace Corps is an opportunity where you get to share your skills and serve others within our 6 sectors of work, or generally how we partner with others in different countries. But really, I want to tell you that the Peace Corps is an opportunity for you to grow as well and to immerse yourself in a different culture and bring that home back to the United States, and to share with people about maybe life in Fiji, Vanuatu, Morocco, or even Georgia.
And so for the eligibility and things like that, do you have to be like a U.S. citizen? Is there really age requirement? All of those things as well?
Yeah, so the Peace Corps sends U.S. citizens who are at least 18 years of age to volunteer overseas using your skills. So right now our program is typically 27 months. That is 3 months of pre-service training and then 24 months in your final site of service. We also have pilots. We have 3 pilots. One pilot will be our 15-month opportunity. So that's basically 1 year of service, 3 months of pre-service training. Our second pilot is our mid-year break pilot. Peace Corps will return you home to the United States. So we'll pay for your flights to and from your country of service. And then we'll also give you a walk-around allowance, depending on where you're going. Our third and our final pilot at the moment is our increased readjustment allowance. So if you're doing 27 months of service in that pilot country, your readjustment allowance will move from $10,000 to $20,000. And these pilots are really to address the needs that we've heard from return volunteers. So we have these pilots going in our posts that are located in Africa.
Yeah, this is really awesome. Okay, so the different sectors that people can volunteer in are what? Can you repeat that a little bit again?
Yeah, so we have 6 sectors where we categorize our volunteers in. It is health, education, community economic development, environment, agriculture, and youth and development. Now, these 6 sectors are kind of just how we categorize, but it doesn't mean that your major has to fit directly into one. Really, we just use these categories to explain with our partners on the ministry level, but also on the community level, what our volunteers do.
So like, for example, if I am an international affairs background, I could apply to any of them as long as I have some experience or...
Right. It will be your experience, maybe your education, maybe it's your technical skills, or even your hobbies and interests. So for example, we have someone currently looking to serve in agriculture. Maybe they have a bachelor's of arts in education, but their technical skills means that they've been farmers in Texas for over 10 years because it's something they've been growing up on doing. That makes them a great candidate for agriculture sector.
Do you have any examples of like what a health volunteer does? What are each of the sectors?
Of course.
An example for each one? Yes, let's do that.
So our health volunteers will actually be working in partnership with health officials in their community. So they will be doing awareness classes or raising awareness about vaccinations. We also have our health volunteers working on water and sanitation. So the importance of washing your hands or using clean water, which is important. And I think generally we all think about it, but reinforcing that idea is important. Our next sector will be community economic development. I think of it more of a business sector. So they might have projects in tourism or thinking about projects that elevate the community. Maybe they need a school or a playground. We've actually had that project in Albania with a volunteer. Looking at agriculture, these might be our beekeepers or our coastal reef volunteers. So these volunteers have a range of projects, and sometimes they have overlapping work with different sectors. Agriculture volunteers could be educators. They could be raising awareness about
Mm.
sustainability. They could be
Mhm.
actually going to the farm with farmers and talking about planting and planting styles. There are many different ways that you can work in agriculture.
Mhm.
And youth and development, and this is the sector I like to say that kind of combines all of our sectors. Could be an educator, you could be teaching out of school or teaching tutoring or English as a second language, as I did in Morocco. Youth and development can also be teaching our youth that they are leaders. Our youth and development also do tech camps, STEM camps, arts and sciences. So we have a range of activities. I've actually met one of our volunteers in youth development that did youth leadership through hiking, which I thought was pretty cool,
Wow.
out of the box.
Yeah.
And then our education sector, I think it's our most structured sector of work, which is
Mhm.
our teacher sector, in which we need teachers all over the world, but they teach at universities. They can be literacy coaches, and they also teach
Mm.
teachers. So they're training up the teachers and skills that they have
Mhm.
gained through their own teaching experience.
Yeah, no, thank you for just explaining it. I know our students that are listening and maybe some parents that are listening are like, okay, I can see it now. I can see all of these different sectors and probably picturing themselves in which one they may most align with. And I'm really excited to delve even deeper into that over our time together. How long have you been recruiting now for Peace Corps?
I've been recruiting for 4 years now, the Peace Corps.
4 years. Okay. So, in your experience as a recruiter, what motivates most people to join the Peace Corps, especially right after college? Like all the people you've talked to in your 4 years of experience, like what motivates them?
Yeah, I would say it's this idea of being of service to others and to really use their skills in a way that they get to explore their career trajectory, work in the field that they're interested in, and then learn from others about the career, maybe from a different perspective or country perspective. So it's really service is the number one, and then that exploration of the world around us.
When you first heard about like Peace Corps, you were overseas, you were in the States, kind of like where did your story, your Peace Corps origin story first begin for you?
Yeah, so mine was actually as a graduate student in Austria. I was sitting in the classroom
Oh,
and my professor talked about the Peace Corps. He talked about meeting Peace Corps volunteers while he was working overseas. And that story of Peace Corps volunteers continued to show up in my graduate program. So I heard about it from another professor, and he was still living in that country of service decades after serving as a volunteer. So it really got me interested, but also it connected to what I wanted to do, which was to be of service to others and to help others meet their goals.
wow. And Alex and I were talking a little bit before about like just Peace Corps in general, how it entered into our lives. And so you mentioned Austria, like so very nonchalantly, like I was studying in Austria. I feel like our listeners would love to hear a little bit more about your starting off story. So, Alex, like, where are you from? Where'd you attend college? And what was the moment for you that you were just like, okay, I am going to apply for Peace Corps?
Yeah, of course. Thanks for asking. So I'm actually from Chicago, Illinois. I went to school at Millikan University, which is also in Illinois, Southern Illinois. And from there, I was studying history with a French minor. And I really loved learning about the world around me. We had this idea that every student would become global citizens. So, this idea of citizenship globally and connection was built in at an early age. And I wanted to continue to explore the world after doing study abroad. And so, a friend of mine actually told me about this opportunity where I got to travel as a graduate student, moving every 2 months to learn international affairs. And I loved it. I loved the opportunity to travel. And so, yeah, I kind of kicked off that start. From there, as I mentioned, I went to school in Austria. So for 2 months in Austria, I went to school. And then I moved to Thailand, went to school there, met another returned volunteer, excellent professor of mine. He really talked about his time in Thailand as a volunteer. He was still living there 40 years later. And I was like, well, you loved it. Dang it. So yeah, I got to like move to different countries, learn about myself, learn what I wanted to do, where I wanted to be. And this idea at the end of my time, I was like, okay, I know I want to do the Peace Corps. I don't know exactly when. I'm still very young. I was 22, graduated with a master's degree. And so I took a little time to get a job here in the US. I actually then went to Japan to teach English as a foreign language. It was a lot of fun, and that centered my idea of Peace Corps. I knew what I wanted to do. I had explored the world a little bit, set up my boundaries of what I needed, what I didn't need, and then I was like, okay, I have the skills to be a volunteer. I am ready to apply to see if I will be accepted.
Man, this is okay. I feel like this is just so much. I got pulled to this country and that country. So we always love like trying to be as actionable as we can on the podcast. So I'm just gonna do
Mhm.
just a little detour and then come back. Okay. So what was the program that you did where it allows you to like travel around the world and move around every couple of months? What was that? Was a master's program or was there like
Yes.
a title of the program?
So the program title is Webster University's Global Masters of International Relations. So it's a 1-year program. You have 3 different tracks that you can take. I took the track where I went to Austria, London, Thailand, the Netherlands, Switzerland, and other friends actually, instead of going to Thailand, they went to Cuba for 2 months, and another set actually went to Beijing for 2 months. So there were 3 different tracks of students getting their master's degree.
Wow. Okay. So the Webster program, did you get that funded? You paid out of pocket? Like how?
So a mix. So I got some of it through scholarships. They're really great with scholarships if you're looking for a scholarship out there. Just by
Mhm.
turning in your application early, you get an automatic scholarship. And then they have other
Oh.
scholarships for study abroad. So really it was it once again was a friend told me about this opportunity last minute in my senior year of college. And I said, why not? Let's try it out.
Mhm.
I want to do it. And my parents were very supportive of that as well.
Man, okay, so you did that, and then you did what program in Japan? Was it like the JET program? Like what, in case our students.
There was a friend, a sorority sister of mine. She was already teaching out of school, and I was like, I want to try it out. My mom was a teacher my entire
Mhm,
life. I knew the background. I knew I could do it, but I was a little unsure of going out by myself. So I had a built-in
mhm,
friend, and so it
mhm.
was a British English school an hour outside of Tokyo that I worked at for a short period of time.
Man, this is so good. Oh my gosh, Alex, I'm so excited. I just feel like I keep hearing just adventure, like as you're opening your mouth talking about adventure. You got bit by the adventure bug. You went here, there, but as you were going through, you were also picking up some skills. And so I know students are probably feeling that as well, since we've just been whisked around different parts of the world. What does the application process look like for a Peace Corps, right? And how early should students start preparing if they are interested in becoming a Peace Corps volunteer? So maybe they also have traveled, or maybe they haven't, but that's
Mhm.
okay. And
Yeah.
they're like, okay, I want to become a Peace Corps volunteer. What's the application process look like?
So our application process, we ask that you start it as early as possible. So generally within 9 to 12 months, we want to get you started early so you know whether or
Mhm,
not you're accepted so you can start preparing.
mhm,
Our application is currently all online. It is 45 minutes to an hour. I always encourage
mhm,
people to take that extra time to save it, come back to it, and review what you've added on. If you have a name like I do, I have an I traditionally where there is an E in my name. So
mhm,
always check for autocorrect. And then I
mhm,
have generally a recruiter look over my resume or my motivation statement. It's not a hard lift for us as recruiters. We love to do it. So if you want someone to review your application, I would always connect with the recruiter. Or my next tip is to ask a friend, a really good friend. I think
mhm,
sometimes as we're setting up for an application, especially our resumes, we downplay our skill sets and the
mhm,
things that make us stand out. So
mhm,
asking a friend to look it over or even asking a friend, like, tell me about myself from your perspective,
mhm,
to
mhm.
always add in things that you might have downplayed or missed.
Man, so okay, I wanted to talk a little bit about reviewing the application, having a recruiter review an application. Would you do that before you click apply or reach out to you guys before that process? Or when would the review, if a student wanted to do that, when would that come into play? Like what's.
Yeah, so definitely before you click apply, it gives us more of an opportunity to give you some quick feedback. So for your resume, I say just before you're about to send it in, go ahead and send it to a recruiter and ask them to review it. You need to say like, hey, can you take this time to review this application? And then they'll send you back some comments. I always like to give comments, but also I give
Mhm,
questions to get your mind thinking about like, oh, I made this sentence about teaching English as a foreign
mhm,
language, but did I
mhm,
add in any data or information that strengthens that
mhm,
resume statement?
mhm, mhm. Yeah, this is really good. Okay, so where would a student go to find a recruiter? Is there like a website they go to find one? Should they be on their campus? Where would a student go to obtain one?
Yeah, so you can look on your campus, but more than often than not, the quickest way to reach out to a recruiter and to find them is through the Peace Corps website. We have a
Okay.
section where it says connect with the recruiter. If you
Okay.
enter in your state, zip code, always enter in a short message. I love to kind of know like what you want to talk about. It
Okay.
will set up an email that will connect with the recruiter, and then we can schedule a time to meet, whether it's virtually, in person, or a quick phone call as well.
Awesome. Okay. So the application process is 45 minutes. What do other students kind of get tripped up on, you say, you find as they're like applying, students should pay attention to?
I think the next thing is the motivation statement. I get a lot of people asking me,
Right.
what should I write in my motivation statement?
Mm-hmm.
What should it entail? How much should I include? Should it be
Mm-hmm.
longer? And I
Mm-hmm.
always tell them, I just want to hear your answer. We're not evaluating your writing style. We're interested in connecting with you to see like your motivation and to also see like, have you really thought about this process and what it's asking of you?
And what would be some, I don't know, things that were prompts or thoughts that help students really get down to the why they want to join Peace Corps? And maybe this isn't a question you can answer, but I'm just kind of thinking as we're talking here, what could help a student find their inner why for Peace Corps? Are there some things that you would recommend for that?
Yeah, I always ask them to think about what do they wish to accomplish? What skills do they think they will use in Peace Corps service?
Hmm.
As you think about your why, think about your own self growth, personal growth,
Hmm.
skill growth, and then think about the fun aspect of it. Like what is that fun thing that maybe you don't want to tell that interviewer, but you like deep down are like, yeah, my why is because I want to see that country from my own perspective, or I want to know what someone is saying without having it translated. Think about that as you write your motivation statement. Let yourself shine through because you are
Hmm.
unique to yourself, and that is wonderful. And I want to see it.
Now, one thing I also want to take time to talk about, we're talking about the application process right now, is there was a pretty big change with countries. So back in the day when I did Peace Corps, it was like, surprise, you find out your country in an envelope. Wherever you are, they tell you what country you're going to. But now you can kind of select your countries. How does that fall into the application process? Did that come after you apply that you get a list, or is it before? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, and I love that you brought this up because I think I would not have been comfortable just like opting into a country. I love the new model where you get to select your country. So
Mhm.
currently on our website, we present to you all of our countries that we have open at this time. And right now there's actually an October 1st due date for those listening that are ready to apply. So currently you go on our website, you kind of get to see what openings we have, different countries, and then I always encourage people to read them through. Which ones stand out to you? Which ones they're like, oh yes, I'm really interested. And
Mhm.
then you need to align your skill sets. Like what's your skill set saying that aligns with our volunteer openings or sectors? And do
Mhm.
you think you're a good candidate for it? Within each application, you apply directly to either Serve or Need It Most, which is kind of Peace Corps picks for you, or you get to select your volunteer opening. So I myself selected Morocco, and then I top my top three choices. So it was Morocco, Indonesia, and then Thailand. And I did my selection based off of not only that idea of service to others, but then I narrowed it down into continuing language learning. I actually
Mhm.
learned modern standard Arabic in high school for 4 years. So I really wanted to continue that kind of growth. So I chose Morocco and Indonesia. And then Thailand, I had lived in Thailand for 2 years, 2 months. So I knew it was a country that I was excited to go back to and invest more time in as well.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, this is good. Yeah, I'm glad they made that update. It was kind of like back in the day, you just didn't know. I remember when I got mine, I was like, oh, okay, this is where we're headed. We're just going over to Southeast Asia for an adventure of a lifetime. How can college students strengthen their applications to become more competitive candidates? Do you need a certain major? Should there be things you're doing on campus? What should students be thinking about if they're like, okay, I want to strengthen my application?
Yeah, so I think what I generally tell candidates when they ask if what makes me more competitive is that one, I think you're probably already competitive and you're downplaying your skills, but let's
Mhm.
talk through that conversation. And
Mhm.
generally, once we kind of talk through that conversation, they see new points that make them very competitive. But generally, when I'm talking maybe to my freshmen or sophomores and they are still in that growth opportunity period in
Mhm,
college, I talk
mhm,
about classes. What classes are you taking
mhm,
that you are enjoying or doing to grow your skills?
mhm,
What extracurriculums, club activities are you involving yourself in so that you can continue growing skills? So I talk about maybe, are you volunteering on campus? Are you connecting with your professors?
mhm,
Asking them about opportunities, really letting them know that they are in a setting where they can continue highlighting their skill growth
mhm,
through becoming active participants on campus. I also want to say that I know students work as well, right? We have
mhm,
things that we have to do. So how do I make sure I balance that? I ask them to think about like what can you add that benefits you or brings you joy, not just
mhm.
because you have to do it.
Yeah, no, I think that's really good. And I think a lot of times students can kind of select themselves out, especially first and second gen students, because they're just like, okay, I actually was spending a lot of my time working. So
Mhm.
how does that make me a qualified candidate? But if you also look at the perspective of the skills that you're learning as you're working, might be also very helpful to you becoming a very competitive applicant to become a Peace Corps volunteer. Okay, so once a student has put in their application and done all of that, is there like an interview process or something that happens after the application, or they just sit and wait to see when the response comes back if they've gotten accepted?
So yeah, as soon as you finish your application, what it will pop up is our health history form. You'll quickly tell us about your health history. It will just give us information about you, and then you wait for an email to pop up. Generally, we'll wait for an email. It will let you know that you're under selection or that our placement officers are reviewing your application at this moment. We also send you an email if you are selected or not selected to be interviewed. If you are selected to be
Mhm.
interviewed, interviews last 60 minutes, and then we give you a set of dates and times that you get to select which one works best for you. I encourage you to check the time zone as we have placement officers all across the United States. But this interview, we actually send you the questions ahead of time, and then you have
Okay.
time to prep and prepare. And also, our recruiters are accessible in terms of preparation for interview as well.
Wow, that is super cool. And so this one for the interview, is that in person or it's still virtual as well?
It is going to be virtual. It's going to be on our Zoom platform, or we are testing out Teams as well.
Okay. Yeah, back in the day, that's what I keep saying. I'm dating myself. We had to go in person. And I remember like not having access to a car and messaging my friend, like, hey, can you take me to this Peace Corps interview? It was like
Yeah,
40 minutes away. And she was like, okay, I can do that. So it's nice that it's all virtual because it gives more access to everyone. And what
exactly.
best practices would you say if students that are preparing for the interview? I know you say you get the questions ahead of time, but are there any best practices that you think first and students should consider?
I think some of my best tips are that one, find your quiet area, remind people around you that you'll be interviewing during this time. Test out your tech multiple times before the interview. You never know. But also, if you're having a tech problem, just message that person. And we, of course, are understanding of that and we can reschedule. In terms of your resume, I encourage you to kind of prepare and thinking about what question, where can I match these questions on my resume? Not that you have to have the perfect answer. We're not asking you for perfection. We want you to be natural. Take your time, breathe through it, have fun. But if you do that match, you kind of know how you want to answer your question. Practice. We're not asking for perfection, but if you practice, your mind already is ready for the question and it can answer it naturally. Practice out loud because as you do that more, you'll catch yourself with these little words that maybe you don't need, and you will, over time, hone into the core message that you want to share. Also, sometimes I like to encourage my applicants to print their resume a little bit bigger. And then,
Mm,
if you have an opportunity, you have a wall, place in the wall right behind your computer
mhm,
where the video screen is. So you're never
mhm,
looking off to the side, you're never looking down, you're continuing to face your interviewer, and they'll
mhm,
never know the difference. And pause. If you don't know, if you're unsure,
mhm.
pause, take a second, breathe it out, reflect, and then answer. And should you answer in a way that you think, oh, I didn't love it, come back to it at the end and say, like, hey, I would like to take a second to readdress that question you asked me earlier.
Mm. Yeah, I like that. I like advice for pausing and then also having a core message. So at the end of the day, what do you want the interviewers to walk away with, knowing or feeling about you? and being able to reiterate that throughout the interview process. That's really good. So I know another thing we just talked about students having to work, and that's being a really, as costs cover become like $100,000 a year for school. A lot of times people do have to work. Many students do worry about money when it comes to going overseas and serving. How does Peace Corps support volunteers financially during their service?
Yeah, and I love this conversation because I think it should be one of those foundation conversations that each volunteer or potential volunteer talks about with their family and friends, but also with yourself as you think about Peace Corps. So right now, the Peace Corps, we have definitely talked about money as a staff. So right now we have medical clearance that is now 100% reimbursable. That is an update from when I was applying. So yeah, everything we ask of you, we make sure that we can reimburse it. Also, we ask for passports, passport photos. Know that your passport is not a cost for you. We actually provide that cost. So we give you a Peace Corps passport. It would just be like your US passport, but now you might have two passports, but that's no cost to you. I think when you think about it, the cost that I would like to talk about specifically right now is that preparation for Peace Corps cost. Getting everything you think you need for service.
Yes.
And you'll probably learn you don't need half the things that you brought. And that is a cost. But I encourage people to think about what they can grab from family and friends, what you can get at thrift stores. A lot of big companies actually give discounts to Peace Corps volunteers.
Mm.
So we'll lean into those. Some give up to 60%, which I think is amazing. I
Wow.
always try
Yeah.
to share about them. So those are like Nike, Hydro Flask,
Mm.
REI gives
Mhm.
discounts as well. Also, connect to your local Peace Corps Association group. All these volunteers probably still
Mhm.
have stuff that they are more than happy to share with you or give to you
Mhm.
because they remember that preparation and that
Yes.
cost. So yeah, it's a big factor. Another thing to think about is that your flight to your country of service and returning back at the end is also covered by Peace Corps. Your
Mm.
money in service is covered by the Peace Corps. It is a monthly stipend. It covers all your bills down to ATM fees now. So we're thinking about those
Wow.
known costs that you might,
Mhm.
which is great, right? Because if you
Yeah.
live 2 hours away and you got to get there and there's a fee, you're like, oh, now I got to deduct that.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah, and does the monthly stipend that's provided, does that change based on country, location? Like, how is that kind of determined?
Yeah, so that is determined by country. So it will translate slightly different. So as a volunteer in
Mhm.
Morocco, I had about 300 United States dollars, but that was
Mhm.
3,000 Moroccan dirham. It covered
Mhm.
rent, utilities, food,
Mhm.
water, electricity, taxi travels, and then slight bit I went to put into like a savings for an unexpected cost or a fan if I wanted one. But
Mhm.
fans, bikes, heaters, those are all reimbursable
Yes.
items that Peace Corps will give you back the money for.
Oh, wow. Really? These are all these updates. I just love it because like you got 300 a month. I remember it was $150 a month. And like you said, from all of that came the housing and the food and things like that. But it does cover it because it's in USD. And so where you're going, the dollar is usually a little bit stronger. I think also we had talked a little bit about like the hardest part when it comes to preparing and going to Peace Corps with like the financial aspect of it is recognizing that you don't need everything.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think that is like definitely needs to be part of the conversation.
Yeah, it really does. So generally, each person still has two check bags up to 50 pounds. I
Mhm.
definitely suggest that you do not do that because when you get there, how are you getting it to where you're going? It's
Yes.
going to be on you. But the things that you don't need, sometimes we think we need lotions, we need shampoos,
Mhm.
we need school supplies because we're going into studying for 3 months. But
Mhm.
actually, everything that you think you need, know that it's in another country already. They have
Mhm.
some of the
Mhm.
same setups as
Mhm.
you. So I would say make your packing list, check through it, check some blogs, talk to recruiters, talk to
Mhm.
some of those return volunteers that serve, and then I need you to cross out maybe half the list and
Yes.
then redo the list. And then I need you to start like packing. Like, is it feasible for you to carry on your own?
Mhm.
And then we do have some volunteers that bring one check bag, and I'm like, okay, wow, you did it.
Wow.
It be me,
Yeah.
but I'm proud of you. So yeah, you really have to think about what you need, what you don't need,
Mhm.
what you can pick up. Now, some of the things that I always encourage people to bring could be those things that, like reminds you of home. that
Mhm.
help you. Pillowcases, that seems silly to bring, but unless you wanna sew one yourself, like
Mhm.
I did, sometimes it's not just easily accessible.
Mhm.
Another thing to bring is use technology. You don't need to bring the newest item because you're gonna be
Mhm.
carrying it everywhere with you.
Mhm.
And to pack smart, pack light, and buy once
Mhm.
you get to country.
Yes, yes, exactly. I remember getting that list and thinking through, okay, what do I need to get? What do I not need to get? I would add too, like if you are a person of color, there are sometimes these certain countries you're going to, they might like have bleaching products and things there. So
Yes.
you might need to bring some things or like
Mhm.
hair products. Like I wear a lot of braids. Sometimes, things have come so far since when I first left. But I think sometimes it's also nice to have your beginning stash so that you can find where to go and get some things by the time you get to country.
I think that's such a great comment. Yeah, so I always recommend you bring foundation if you're gonna wear makeup. I always say, like, bring enough for the entire time because no matter where you go, you kind of
Good.
went through that struggle at home, so bring it. Like, you know
Yes.
yourself. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Oh my goodness, it's getting me excited. So, how does serving in Peace Corps benefit someone's career after service? What are some of the benefits someone has by completing their Peace Corps service, especially when it comes to student loans, job opportunities, or grad school?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest benefits is our Return Peace Corps volunteer network. I think it's one of the benefits that gets
Mhm.
overlooked. But this group of people continue to expand as our volunteers return home. I
Mhm.
think everyone is always willing to look over a resume, give you some tips, have an informational interview, and connect you with opportunities. Another great one coming back home is that you, over your 2 year time, if you do our 2 year program, will have 2 years that can go towards public service loan forgiveness outside of your
Mhm.
10 years. It's really important that if that's something you're thinking about, that you get your form signed early and
Mhm.
often until you are for sure that they have been approved. Another great benefit is our Coverdell Fellows program. These are where universities in the United States opt in to offer fellowships. Sometimes they are 20,
Mhm.
25% off of tuition. Other times they're room and board taken off, tuition discounts, or up to 100% where you're not paying for tuition, but maybe you're paying for books and other things. So great opportunity. There are a range of different majors. So it's not just international relations or international development. I think the University of Michigan has almost every major available
Oh,
if
wow.
you're looking at that particular school, but other schools just have 1 to 2 opportunities.
Last question for this. So when I did it, when I came back, it was like a $7,000 lump sum. I'm sure it's gone up since then. Does that still remain true when you
Yes, and so
Okay,
I wanted to share about that. So right now, the majority of our 2 year programs is it's $10,000. However, we have a pilot program, and our pilot programs have that readjustment allowance, and it's bumped up to $20,000.
way to go, Peace Corps, for doing that. I think that's pretty awesome. Okay, so I'm ready to start talking about life as a Peace Corps volunteer. We've gotten to discuss the application. For students that have never traveled far from home or have never been outside of the United States, what is the cultural adjustment like, and how does Peace Corps help you through that?
I think for those who are looking for that cultural adjustment, I think what's great is that our Peace Corps staff members are there to assist you. They meet you directly from touching down off the airplane. They are there to walk you through immigration, and then they surround you by other volunteers and staff for your
Mm,
first 3 months. You're really in a cocoon of people that are ready to support you. And they're also available, it feels like 24/7. Though they do have their off hours,
mhm,
should you need something, they make themselves available to you. I think also for someone who is just going out into the world and it's their first time living abroad or even visiting, there are a lot of apprehensions, but know that your aspirations got you there. You're leaning into them. And
mhm,
so I would center yourself on your excitement and your willingness, but also in your fearlessness of taking that opportunity. I think it's important to also remind yourself to take it initially, maybe day by day, and then build up your time increments. Take it day by day, and then you get to that 2 week mark. You should be proud of yourself, right? You got there. And then think about that 1 month mark, and then 2 month, and then know like you're about to swear in, become an official volunteer. And
mhm,
just think about how far time has flown and how many great friends you made and the progress you've made and that you did it. Maybe you had some like doubts that you could do it, but you can keep doing it and now
mhm,
we also have a peer support network. They will call you, they will ask
mhm.
you, they will check in on you and make sure that if you have any questions, they're there to answer. But maybe you're like, I don't want to talk to people yet. I don't want to share
Mhm.
those fears. Know that they will just ask you random things to get to know you and connect with you so that over time you build up that support and that you can ask those questions, but you also need to advocate for yourself.
It's definitely a lot like being on that plane and deciding, okay, we're about to do this. We're about to go to a new place. I would add to that is just take time to journal and to give yourself this grace and this space that adjustment is going to be a process. It's not going to be, it may not be quick. It might be quick for others, but it may not be quick for you. And that's okay because eventually you will adjust to being in a new place. Yeah.
Yeah, and we also have this map that we share that kind of shows this cycle of volunteers and how they're on a good high coming in and they kind of go up and down, up and down, up and down. And that our staff know this. So they're going to do check ins, they're going to have you come back together as a group. They'll have you do some holidays together if you wish to add yourself to those activities, but also to remind you that you can take vacation days. You get 2 weeks a
Yes.
month, but you also have the weekends that you set for yourself as well.
Wow, that's really great that that's how it's built in, like the staff understand that there is this up and down process of being a volunteer and knowing when to reach out. Cause I'm just even thinking back to my own time. I mean, it was a great experience. Some of my greatest friends I met at the getting on the plane. Had no idea that they were about to be awesome friends, invited to my wedding, all of these things. It happened right there. But there was a lot of us just processing like, what are we doing? Ah, are we doing this? Is this right? Oh my goodness. Okay, we're here. We got to make it happen. I think a lot of students worry about, am I qualified enough? I'm just graduating, so am I qualified to actually be a Peace Corps volunteer and actually help the community or serve the community or work in the community that I'm being assigned to? How does the Peace Corps train volunteers to feel ready, even if they don't have years of experience?
So what we do is actually we send every volunteer into 3 months of pre-service training before they officially become a volunteer. We call them a trainee. During this 3 months, you typically spend Monday through Friday, sometimes Saturday, if I'm being honest, building up your skill sets that you already have and then also applying them to your job. So for me in youth development, I would do morning language lessons and then afternoon. I would go with my group and go to a youth center and we would teach classes. We build in like what class structure, class management, working with our counterparts, getting to know what was available to us. And then within that 3 months, we kind of had questions, we had extra trainings on certain things. And this is done in every sector, every volunteer, really making sure that you feel comfortable, not only in your skill sets, but also in your language. And then the Peace Corps reinforces that throughout your time in the Peace Corps. So we have conferences throughout our time.
So it really is covered in that those 3 months that you get to feel as though, okay, you're getting off the plane and it's not like straight to your community. It's you're like you said, like a cocoon. Like, okay, let's show you what you need. Let's let you process, get through this, and learn skills because that's what's necessary in order to succeed in the location that you're going to go to in the country. A lot of students also wonder like how do you actually start and complete a project in another country once the 3 months are done and you're going to another part of the country, your assigned location. What challenges come up and how do you work through them with your host community if you're like trying to start and complete a project?
Yeah, so we get a lot of training on project management as volunteers within that first 3 months. And then we also work with our counterparts to do an assessment of our community before we really get running. Unless you're in the education sector, you're going into the school and your counterpart is also going to help you at lesson planning, but it takes a bit, I'm gonna be honest. So it's not the expectation that you are off and running on projects within your first 3 months or 4 months of service. It's actually that prep work that you're doing with your counterpart. And sometimes that means also finding that counterpart that you work well with, that align with your own style of working and can also get to know you, but also is willing to work through language, right? You're still probably learning the language or you've gotten a hang of it, but there are some words you don't know yet. So for me, I always encourage people to take it slow and know that you're still working. Redefine your idea of work initially so that you feel like you're not missing your milestones. You got to redefine those as well. And then over time, once you have conversation, once you get to know people, you will build in what is needed or asked of you with your counterpart, and then you make a plan. But then you also find support from your community and build in those checks and balances.
I like what you're talking about, like redefining what success or what work looks like, succeeding at work looks like, especially if you're coming from a place that's school. Like, I have a
Mhm.
test, I have to get an A, I have to submit this paper, and now I have all this time. What is success? What does working look like? I'm just kind of thinking back to my local community when I first got there. I was in a place called Rojas Palawan, and I had a co-teacher pull me aside and to say, like, hey, if you really want to do these projects and things in the future, spend
Mhm.
time going to get to know the community, which she actually did, actually. Pull it all the way back. She took me around to different parts of our town and just said, hey, people came to try to do something here, it's no longer here. People came to try to do something here, it's no longer here. If you
Mhm.
really want to make an impact and you want it to be sustainable, you need to get buy-in from the community. And the only way you're going to do that is if you start talking and going to the birthday parties, to the kid events, and to these church, just whatever was happening in the community, you should be there. So people get to know you. And then once that happens, they're really going to just work with you to start these projects. And then when you leave, it'll stay continuing in the community. And I found that to be something that was like, oh wow, okay, I can't, I guess our perspective as Americans can be just like, we're going to come in and we're going to do the thing, you know. But I think Peace Corps also teaches you have to like slow down and be a part of the community before you start doing this hardcore like project management and work. I don't know. What
And
are
I
your thoughts on that?
I think sometimes that's the hard part, right? The
Mm-hmm.
idea of having to slow down. And I know for me at the start of Peace Corps, I was very like introverted. So it was definitely a challenge for me. And my host mom picked up on that. So she did take me around everywhere and she did introduce me. And then she goes, here, go do it. And really tell me like push outside my comfort zone. And over time, I built up friends that were similar age to me, and they would take me around and I would interact. It took me probably 6 months in Peace Corps just to feel comfortable just walking up to someone's house, knocking and like inviting myself in rather than waiting to be invited because there was a cultural difference that I also needed to like tap into. Like it's acceptable to do that in Morocco. And so I always think about that and tell people like you're gonna have to push outside your comfort zone. But no, once you do that, it's so rewarding and you'll get
Yes.
a lot back from it. And so yeah, it's something I think every volunteer experiences. And then it's kind of that benchmark for them in the future when they talk about their service. Like once I did this, here are the things that I've gained from it that I was then able to do projects that supported not only the mission, but what also the community wanted of me.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. Because you're getting buy-in from the community because you took time to slow down and get to actually know the community. So, like living in Morocco, you kind of like started us down this journey. So, I want to continue. What was like the greatest lesson you experienced while living there?
I think the greatest lesson was to slow myself down. I am very like high paced. It's coming from Chicago. Like things have to be like on time. I think in
Yes,
college I learned that if I was on time, I was late.
yes.
Really drilled into me.
Hurry up
Um,
and wait.
yeah. And so I also learned that I just need to step outside my comfort zone. It wasn't that I was afraid to do it. It's just I didn't want to do it. So I had to push myself. And then I would just tell myself, like, do it. And then I'd be so happy that I did things. So I would travel to my friend's house and she lived in a different city. It wasn't that far. It was probably like a 20-minute walk. But I enjoyed doing that because it opened me up to new experiences. So really it was to slow down and to take in the world around me because there were so many things happening that I would have missed out on if I was just like, go straight here to be on time, then to slow down.
Thank you for sharing that. And I guess another part of our first and second gen students that might be listening as they're thinking, okay, Peace Corps, can I do this? Do I want to do this? If someone is worried about being disconnected from family, friends, or social
Mhm.
media, to be frank, for 2 years on that level, what would you tell them about staying connected, being homesick, and what they could possibly gain from stepping away for a while?
I would say, like, one, I think these are natural feelings to feel. And at any point in service, you're going to kind of tackle these emotions. I think it's important to also think about like asking or stating how you need support now from your family and friends for the future so that when maybe you call and are feeling these things, they know how you need support. It
Mm-hmm.
is also important to voice these things to friends, other volunteers, because they are also maybe they've experienced it or are going to experience it in the future.
Mm-hmm.
I would also encourage you to talk with a friend at site. Maybe that's a local person. My friend for me was Zora and Hannon, and I would tell them how I was feeling. They would try to cheer me up. I think it's also very natural in that you go through these periods. But what's amazing now is that we are ever connected no matter where you're serving.
Yep.
Every volunteer has a cell phone which you could call family and friends back. I would put this caveat though that you need to remember like why are you here in service, right?
Mm-hmm.
You should be
Mm-hmm.
present in service.
Mm-hmm.
Internet is not everywhere, but every volunteer has access to internet. Sometimes you gotta go through a couple of things to get it. Maybe you're standing on a hill in the middle of nowhere. That's okay, but it is
Uh-huh.
accessible to them. So know that you will be connected to your family and friends, maybe just not the way that you envisioned it. I also like people to go old school, send a postcard, make that connection so that you have it for the future, or write down and send it, make a blog, YouTube videos. I think
Mm-hmm.
there's Substack now, whatever you need to do to stay connected. I also encourage maybe first and second generation students to maybe set up a phone call. My mom called me every single day while in service. Let me tell you.
Wow.
And it
Wow.
was such a way that everyone knew exactly when my mom was calling. It would be right before lunch that I would have my host mom, and we would chat about like what happened. And some
Mhm.
days are like nothing happened since last time we chatted. It wasn't a long conversation. It was just a quick check in. And my host mom knew, my friends knew, so much so that
Mhm.
I would like share or like be on speaker and translating back and forth for a
Mhm.
quick conversation between the two. So build in what you need. I'm not saying you need to talk to your parents every single day. I told my mom that was a little excessive, but it made her feel great. But kind of like set that expectation and then revisit it as you need to. I also encourage first and second generation students, or maybe thinking about it, citizens, to think about maybe if they want to serve in their country of heritage. It's a
Hmm.
thing to do, and you can do it in some posts that we have. And I've heard positive things from those that have done it. So I encourage you to think about like your journey to Peace Corps, what you want out of it, also in comparison to what you're willing to share of yourself with others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the homesickness, I was speaking at a Fulbright event, and that question came up about being homesick and how do you overcome that as a first and second gen student. And I love that, like how your mom was like, we're going to call every day. And if you have great internet, that works. In my situation, it wasn't the best. So, and then the time zone was like their night is our day, our night is their, that type of thing. But going old school, writing postcards, letters, and then blogs and all that. But also just giving yourself, it's 2 years and 3 months,
Yeah.
of time to feel those feelings, right?
Mhm.
Go through that process because the goal is to also come back a changed person too. It's kind of like it's an experience of a lifetime, and homesickness can kind of push you to think about things in a new way and to just value your family even more when you come when you return. I remember coming back, actually in my studio here, I have a picture of my family in the corner when I first came back from Peace Corps, and they picked me up at the airport, and I just remember like hugging them and like crying because I hadn't seen them for 2 years and 3 months because it was very expensive to get over there, and just having a new appreciation for family.
I think that's a great point. Like another, if you're feeling homesick, I think one is to like let your host family know because maybe they can also provide you with that additional support. I know a lot of volunteers when they're feeling homesick as well, just go visit another volunteer to be
Yes.
surrounded by someone and to have that. A friend of mine actually, it was way too expensive for my family to come visit me, but her family throughout our 2 years would come visit in small groups. And I
Wow.
guess she's picking up that I was feeling like a little homesick and I could visit my family, but not the other way around. So she would include me in her family visits. So I met her entire
Mhm.
family. And I really appreciated that because it wasn't like she asked me. She was like, "Oh, we're coming. You're coming with us.
Mhm.
Like we'll see you. We'll meet you on the road here and pick you up."
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I was really happy that she did that. I don't think I ever expressed to her how much it meant to me that she did that, but
Mhm.
I encourage others to think about, like, if you have a family coming and they're nearby, volunteer, maybe we can take a quick trip to you, to
Mhm.
include them if it's okay with your other family members that are visiting, because it means a lot, even if they don't express it in that moment.
Yes, yes, it is. You are, and you're with that ethos of like community, like Peace Corps. Once you become an RPCV, like you're in this community. It's like another family, like you talked about a little bit earlier. It's like it's really strong, that connection. And so, as we're starting to land our plane in our conversation today, if a first or second gen student is listening right now and feels unsure, what would you say to encourage them to seriously consider the Peace Corps?
I would say, why not? I think we have so many great options in our life, and sometimes we just close it without actually trying to do it because we
Mhm.
let our fears kind of take control in the moment. I would say lean into that fearlessness and to know that you will grow not only in your work skills, but also yourself as an individual, and that you will come back knowing that you could do anything and really believing in that and going out into the world and taking that and knowing that, like, hey, I want this job. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to find those connections. I'm going to prep for
Mhm.
it, or hey, I need to do this and I don't know if I can do it. But you're gonna say, like, I can do it. I've like really done, if I can do Peace Corps, I can do anything. But not only that, but knowing that hundreds of people are rooting for you, not just US citizens, but maybe citizens from that country that you were serving in, and people want to support you. So why not take that opportunity? Just go ahead and apply. If you're unsure, of course, connect with a recruiter. We are ready and able to support you and excited to help you in your journey. So lean into the opportunity.
Yes, lean into the opportunity, and why not? Why not you? Why not you? If Peace Corps is able to cover everything for these 2 years and 3 months, and you get to go out into the world and make a difference, why not do it? And so, Alex, what was the difference for you? The version of Alex that got on that plane going to Morocco, and the version of Alex that returned back to the United States in the time that you spent overseas. What was that change?
I think coming back, I was more focused on taking things slower, intentionally asking my family to like sit down at the dinner table and eat together as one big group, not just like picking it up and going. I was intentional on spending more time with my friends as well because those connection points, I gotten so used to just like talking and chatting with people all day and them really wanting to know how I was doing. And so that connection to others became very important. Not saying that wasn't me before, but it became like the most important part of my life, not just work, but living with friends and having friends in all aspects of my day.
Yeah, those connections. Slowing down can do that for you when you have time. And so, thank you, Alex, so much for coming on the show, for sharing your story and the impact that Peace Corps can have on your life. And so, if our first or second gen students want to learn more, can you share one more time where they should go to get a little bit more information?
Yeah, just go to our Peace Corps website. That's going to be www.peacecorps.gov. Look on the website, take your journey, and we have a tool. It's called What's the Right Fit for You? It kind of helps you narrow down where you might want to serve as a Peace Corps volunteer.
Yeah. Okay. What's the right fit for you? That is awesome. I'm definitely put all of the different things that we talked about. It'll be on the screen, but also in the show notes below. If you're like, okay, I want to take that next step. I want to check this out. I want to meet with a recruiter, and I want to see everybody on the next episode. As always, be kind to yourself because the world needs who you were made to be. Thank you so much, Alex, for coming on the show. Have a great day, everybody.